Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, epidemiologist, biostatistician, faculty member. And in this segment, I'm going to be going over a sample research question that one of my students has, and I'm going to kind of show you step by step how to do this. So for starters, what do you want to do? Really, before you go ahead and start running the analysis, what you want to do is find out what variables you're going to use, recode the variables, clean the variables, and then run the analysis. Remember, you're doing complex samples here, not a regular regression. So, so that has already been done within this data set. I've already created the variables comprised of the original variables. All that needs to be done now is to be able to complete the analysis. So let me rearrange this again because this is not really clear here. All right, so here's the original data set. This is all the way from 1999 to 2018. So I kind of condensed this to reflect that. And then I also created a CSA plan. Just want to review this, prepare for analysis. I'm going to go ahead and edit, but technically you should be creating a plan. I'm just going to show you the type of CSA plan that needs to be included. So when you look at the CSA plan, under strata, you always put the variable SDMV SDRA. Under the clusters, you put in SDMV PSU. And under weights, you put in MEC20YR. The weights variable is actually something I created, and there's a module on how to create this, and the CDC website actually shows you. So that's that, and then that's already there, completed in the analysis preparation wizard. And then you select finish. So then you go under analyze, complex samples. Because you have already prepared the analysis, now you can go into logistic regression. You select continue because the CSA plan is already loaded. And then once you go in, what you do is you select the variables that you need. Now notice there are multiple things that you want to do. First of all, when you do include the dependent variable, you want to make sure that the reference category is correctly selected. So you have to kind of go back and see how you coded the categories. So in my situation, what I did is in the variable suicide2, I made people with suicidal ideation 1. People without suicidal ideation, I gave a 0. So if I were to do highest value, then the reference category would be the presence of suicide. So what we're trying to do is the reference category has to be the absence of suicide. So that's why you go from highest to lowest value. Make sure you change that. Next, what you want to remember is that the factors, you want to make sure to include the factors. One of these variables, actually all 3 of these variables, and then one of the variables is a covariate, and that is always a continuous variable in this situation is age. If you want to do some interaction terms, you can actually use model, but we're going to go right to the odds ratio. Make sure you do complete this, because if you don't, the odds ratio is not displayed. So what I did is, let me go back and then I can show you kind of how this was done. But what I did, let me put these back here so that I can show you what I did. So the model has to include dependent variable we already included, an independent variable we have already included, but sexual orientation you have to include. So the sexual orientation goes here, and then you have what else do you have? You have age, gender, ethnicity. So we're gonna actually ignore military status for now, because that is not part of the model. That is actually categorical variable. So sexual minority, and then age, gender, and then ethnicity, and so suicide we've already added. So ethnicity here is actually a dichotomous variable, so you have Caucasian versus ethnic minority. And the reason you do that is because a lot of times ethnic minority, there's not as many respondents there. So hit continue, and then select continue, and there we go, you have actually an output. The main output you want to take a look at is the odds ratio. So when you look at the odds ratio, you're kind of looking at you're looking at the different odds ratio variables. But I see that I made a mistake here because all of these odds ratio values are less than 1. So let me see if I did something wrong. And this is a good, actually, a learning, kind of a teaching moment here. So let's go into logistic regression. Let's backtrack, take a look at what we did, and in the odds ratio. And surely enough, I made a mistake here. So this was supposed to be lowest value. So here the reference category is the absence of disease, or in the situation with ethnicity, Caucasian, that's coded 0. So you have to know how you coded each category in order to run these numbers. All right, so now we can kind of take a look and see the odds ratios. And let's see if they make a bit more sense. First thing first, you want to see if each of the predictors are significant. You exclude or ignore corrected model intercept. That's the significance of the whole model. That's not what you're after. You want to look at each individual risk factor and then of suicide, and then take a look. And interestingly, I think this is the most interesting finding, is that sexual minority status is actually connected to suicide in a statistically significant way. The rest are actually confounders. So not so the value is 1.6. So people that are of sexual minority status are 1.6 times higher to experience suicidal ideation than people that are heterosexual, that are not sexual minorities. That's an important finding. You would include all of these odds ratios, and when you're including the odds ratio, you also want to include confidence intervals, and these are the confidence intervals, 1.20 to 2.08. So you do the odds ratio, you do the confidence intervals, and then go up here in the test of model effects, and then do the significance, the statistical significance. So that's kind of the order in which you do this. So go ahead and take a look at this, interpret this, and go from there. Now I want to show you something. This is kind of like the second phase of this. Is that how you do a stratified analysis? In other words, how do you do complex samples? Stratified analysis rather than the whole group. So you select a subpopulation, and that depends on the subpopulation that you are after. And so people, remember the initial research question was, does veteran status modify the effect of sexual minority status on suicidal ideation, right? So you go into military. Again, you need to know what military status is, how the categories are coded, all of those things. You just have to keep track of that. And then, so military, and then people that had a 0 were not military status, and 1 they did. So I'm just going to put in 0 here, and then select OK. So this is the odds ratio of people that are of sexual minority are not within the military, and so even people that are not in the military are experiencing this. So let's take a look at people that are in the military. So this is, again, I'm doing the effect modification portion of the research question. So the part one is the area that you're doing regular regression. And then part two is where you're doing stratified analysis, where you're looking for effect modification. And in our situation, veteran status was the modifier. So go into logistic regression, run another analysis, and now you would change the category to 1. So basically what you're doing here is running the model for people that are not in the military or not a veteran, and then running this model for people that are veterans. Everything else is already in place. Select OK, and then take a look at your results. And as you see here, in terms of sexual minority, this is still quite high. So this is an important finding still. And then let's take a look at sexual orientation within the military. And this is not something that you're able to actually conduct because these are all zeros. So you just didn't have an adequate sample size to be able to do this. So this is just something that you're going to have to include within the text of the question if you do this. So this is kind of a guide to how to run a effect modification or even a stratified analysis. I'm using them synonymously because they're basically the same thing. So this is a way to do that. Again, you're doing a regular logistic regression without stratification, and then you're trying to see if both veteran status along with sexual orientation is connected with suicidal ideation, and that's how you do that. So I hope this has made some sense. Thank you for listening.